Hello, and welcome to our show, A Dominican Way. My name is Mayme Puccio, and today our show is about heroes. And I'd like to welcome one of our heroes, Jeff Coltenback, dear friend of mine for many years, to our show. He has an unusual story, one that I think you'll find very interesting. It involves recovery and his journey and the steps in the process and how our dear Lord took him through those steps. Jeff and I came to know each other. We both have a tremendous love for animals, particularly pit bulls. I've been rescuing pit bulls for the last 10 years and have been involved very much in Newark. And many times Jeff, who has a wonderful pet store, holistic pet store, would call me up and say, Mayme, I have some food that you can have for the animals, particularly the abandoned ones and the ones that nobody feeds. So we got to know each other pretty well and said, Jeff, come on, tell us your story. And today he will. So thanks for tuning in, and we hope that these words of wisdom and inspiration will reach and touch your hearts. Jeff, give us a little bio of your life.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. And I know when you had asked me to do this, my first thought was, I hope I can help one person. You know, and that's my recovery and my addiction, you know, throughout my entire life. You know, I always had an innate desire to want to help people. And part of that was probably my Catholic upbringing. But somewhere along the line, you know, my life kind of went askew.
Well, you certainly came full circle and back to a wonderful recovery. Jeff, how did your early beginnings start?
That's one thing that's unique about a lot of people who recover from numerous problems, not just addiction, but problems in general. All of our life experiences contribute to who and what we become. And early on, I don't actually have a recollection of my life prior to 5 years of age. It's partly because of, and anything I say today is not a woe is me. I don't feel sorry for myself. This is merely just to share my story. So,
yes. And sometimes trauma induces forgetfulness.
Absolutely, and it's just in the hope that someone else can identify and possibly, you know, be saved like I was. You know, I grew up in a, you know, middle-class white neighborhood. You know, many successful, happy families. I happened to be the one that was a divorced family, you know, single mother raising 4 children, that whole story, you know, that...
How early did the divorce take place, Jeff?
I think I was 7 when they divorced. I don't know the exact year, you know, and that was just one of the many challenges, you know, that I faced as a child. And, I mean, people don't realize how tough a broken home can be, but it was challenging. And that was probably you know, one of the most important factors of my childhood, of I always was looking at the other side. The grass was always greener to me because I saw, quote unquote, happy homes. You know, a mother, a father sitting down at the dinner table, those kind of things. So, and that kind of contributed to the whole grass is greener. And I mentioned the grass is greener because that followed me. Wow. Throughout my adolescence.
And now you're living on the green grass.
Now I know the grass is green on this side, and it's always going to be green.
But Jeff, you also too, just, you know, knowing you as well as I do, not realizing, you know, as many things that you've told me since we planned for this interview, but you had a stint as a child model. Tell us about that.
You're going to make me blush.
You're a big, handsome guy. Why not?
I was a child model for 8 years, and I know my wife is rolling her eyes right now. And that was a fun experience, but it also made me the center of attention a lot, which, you know, looking long term probably contributed a little bit to my self-centeredness. But it was a remarkable experience because I got to work with some, you know, some interesting characters, and, you know, I was probably one of the interesting characters. So that was a unique experience. And I probably stopped that when I was about 9 years old. And that was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Oh, and so then did you feel kind of a lull? I mean, after the excitement of that kind of life, and then back to the reality of the divorced family, their mom doing her best to take care of you?
It was definitely an escape. You know, and that's the interesting thing about addiction, is that, you know, addicts, and I happen to be a recovering drug addict. My drug of choice ultimately became crack cocaine. So, but early on in my childhood, you can see how I wanted to escape things. That was an escape. Athletics was an escape. I was very big into athletics. And animals. I was never allowed to have an animal as a child. And my brother and sister and I, we always had some kind of animal snuck away in the garage that our mom never knew about. You know, and cats off the street, rabbits, rats, snakes, you name it. You know. So those kind of things were definitely.
There were buffers there for a while.
They were an escape for me. You know.
And how did the introduction to the drug culture and the drug world begin?
I got drunk the first time when I was 10 years old. That I remember, and that was at my aunt's wedding, my godmother's wedding. And I remember I got up on stage to sing with the band, and I sang Men at Work, and everybody laughed at me. And they were probably laughing at me as an adorable 10-year-old child, but I didn't take it that way. I took it very personal, and at 10 years old, I knew enough to go drink a bottle of wine. Wow. And that's pretty remarkable. And that was probably because of being raised in an alcoholic household.
There you go.
You know, and again, I don't blame the people in my life that
But you were predisposed.
I was predisposed.
By environment anyway, at least.
Environmental issues definitely contributed to it. And, you know, I am the classic case of it will never happen to me, okay? I'll never do that drug. I'll never be like that person. I got drunk when I was 10. I probably smoked my first joint when I was 13. Now keep in mind, I'm in Catholic school too. I went to Catholic school from kindergarten through 8th grade. So I was exposed to God. I was exposed to Jesus. Still to this day, I pray to the Holy Mother. You know, and you know, yeah, absolutely. So you know, it's not that I didn't have good influences in my life, but
it must have been a tremendous guilt factor too, knowing that in the environment that you were going to school, and then knowing that, you know, the life, the kind of schizophrenic, life-altering, you know, drug world must have been very draining and very hard for you to balance both worlds.
No, not because you just get lost in one, you know, and that's ultimately I just went, you know. I mean, as and there was a lot of things and there are a lot of things that contribute to addiction, you know. And, you know, we'll talk about my deepest, darkest secret in a little bit. But
so then you went from 10 years old to drinking the bottle of wine at the wedding, the trauma of everyone laughing at you, and then how did and going into crack, how did it progress?
I mean, it's so simple, and it's in a short period of time, but you know, you smoke a few joints, you have a few beers on the weekend, and this happens all throughout high school, you know, and then I was exposed to, you know, angel dust, acid, mushrooms, mescaline, and my senior year in high school, I believe, was the first time I snorted cocaine, and then I went off to college, and my first year of college was a lot of fun, and my addiction was manageable and under control, partly because the bottoms I was experiencing weren't low enough, you know.
Yeah, they say you have to bottom out.
You have
totally,
to, and everybody's bottom is different, you know. And, you know, mine, like they say, and I happen to go to AA. That's the 12-step program that I go to. We always say that, you know, every bottom has a trap door. So, you know, in my second year of college is when I was introduced to the love of my life. And I call the love of my life crack cocaine. Oh. Because at the time...
I'm laughing because I'm waiting to hear her name.
I know. And at the time, that's all that mattered to me.
Wow, yeah.
All that mattered to me. And that's when I started robbing and stealing. And, I mean, I robbed for my family. I mean, I joke around. I was so messed up, I stole my own radio. You know? And long before, you know, shortly after I began smoking crack, it was about 8 months when it took me to my knees. I started overdosing. I almost died on a